Thanks all for joining us today. My name is Lisa Merrifield, and I am with University of Illinois Extension. I want to be the first to welcome you to this University of Illinois Extension Local Government Education webinar. Today, we're discussing technical assistance and funding opportunities for thriving communities. The webinar is co-sponsored by the Prairie Rivers Network and the US EPA and Department of Energy funded Minnesota-led Great Lakes Thriving Community Technical Assistance Center. A couple housekeeping items before we get started. First, we have 4 speakers today. We're going to let each of the speakers present, and then we'll take time at the end for questions. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we will curate a list and combine questions that are similar and make sure they all get to the speakers during our Q&A time. So depending on the question, sometimes the speakers can also answer in the chat. So watch for that if you ask a question. We are recording this webinar, and you will get a link to that recording and the contact information for speakers in the next few days, provided that you've registered for the webinar. If you haven't registered for the webinar, Nancy's going to put a link in the chat so that you can do that. And you can always find recordings of our local government education webinars on the Local Government Education YouTube channel. I also want to call your attention to our February 20th webinar, which is one where we're going to be discussing one of the current funding opportunities that are available or potentially available to many of you. So on February 20th, we are going to do a deep dive into the Community Change Grant application process and available technical assistance through both the TICTAC and other resources. The TICTAC is the Thriving Community Technical Assistance Center that is co-sponsoring this webinar series. If you have any interest, please join us for that one. And I think that's going to wrap up my logistics. I don't think there's anything else I need to share with you. So I'm going to turn it over to Amanda Pankow. Amanda is from Prairie Rivers Network, and Amanda and Prairie Rivers are partnering with University of Illinois Extension on the Illinois piece of the Great Lakes Thriving Community Technical Assistance Center. So our objective in this is to help local communities in Illinois get access to some of the unprecedented state and federal infrastructure funding that is now available. So with that, Amanda, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Lisa. Again, I'm Amanda Pankow. I work for the Illinois nonprofit Prairie Rivers Network, and I'm proud to be partnered with U of I Extension and the other partners of the Great Lakes Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center. So you've already heard Lisa say Great Lakes Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center a couple times. I've now said it a couple times. So for simplicity's sake, I'm going to just introduce our acronym right off the bat here. So, and you're going to hear all about this on this webinar, but for now, I'm going to call it the Great Lakes TICTAC. So just like the tiny mint that many people love, the Great Lakes TICTAC is our acronym. So today's webinar is the first in our 2024 Thriving Communities webinar series. The series is aimed at providing information and technical assistance to help communities plan for and receive funding for energy, environment, and other infrastructure projects. So our topic today is technical assistance and funding opportunities for thriving communities. And as I've already mentioned, you'll learn in this webinar and in the entire series how we want to bring the resources of the Great Lakes TICTAC to underserved communities in Illinois. So taking a closer look at today's agenda so you know what to expect, I'm going to kick us off with a brief, broad overview of federal funding that's available for energy and environment projects, and then introduce you to opportunity to drive, support, and capacity to the communities that need it the most. I will then hand it to Ursula, who is the resource coordinator with the Great Lakes TICTAC. And she's going to give us a more detailed, in-depth look at the services available through the TICTAC and how you as community-based organizations or communities can access those resources. Next, we'll hear from Noor with Environmental Protection Network. EPN is a Great Lakes TICTAC partner, and she will share information about EPN's resources to help with federal grant navigation. And then finally, we'll hear from Ellie with Community Engineering Corps, and she will share information about the engineering services that Community Engineering Corps can provide as a Great Lakes TICTAC partner. And then finally, I'm going to take take the mic back and share just a few updates on some federal grants that are available right now. And then we'll use the remainder of the time, as Lisa mentioned, for Q&A. And please do put your questions in the chat as they come up. Some of our presenters might chime in the chat, but we'll definitely do a Q&A session at the end. I'm going to kick us off, as I said, by talking very broadly about the opportunities that exist and that may play a part in helping your community reach some of its goals. So right now, federal and state funding for energy and environmental improvements is at an unprecedented level thanks to recent legislation. The bipartisan infrastructure law passed in November of 2021. It focuses on improving and modernizing various aspects of American infrastructure, from water to broadband to roads and much, much more. It fights climate change and promotes clean energy with funding for clean energy demonstration projects, grid modernization, and investing in clean energy manufacturing and workers. It invests in electric vehicles and also delivers the largest investment in tackling legacy pollution from things like Superfund sites, brownfields, and abandoned mines. Flash forward a year, the Inflation Reduction Act passed and really dwarfed a lot of the investments that were made in the infrastructure law. And despite its name, it's the largest investment in clean energy and climate in our nation's history. One of the dominant strategies of the Inflation Reduction Act is employing clean energy through tax credits. Along with these tax credits, the legislation creates clean energy rebates and allocates billions towards transportation electrification. The law also addresses environmental injustices and creates countless grant and loan programs to expand clean energy, build a clean energy workforce, and bring benefits to underserved communities. And finally, Illinois is really poised to benefit more from a lot of these federal energy and climate investments because in 2021, we also passed the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. Through the state legislation, we have a whole host of programs and incentives to expand clean energy and energy efficiency, and these can often be leveraged alongside federal programs. You may have seen, I jumped forward somehow here. So you may have already seen the benefits of some of these opportunities firsthand in your community or nearby communities. Here are just a small handful of projects or programs that are supported by state and federal funding that I've personally been involved in. Illinois has unprecedented funding to clean up abandoned mine lands across downstate Illinois. Over 100 Illinois farms and rural small businesses have adopted solar and energy efficiency projects since August of last year alone. 29 school districts have received funding for electric school buses. And finally, rural communities like Dowell and Carrier Mills are exploring innovative clean energy projects. So with all this federal funding available, it's likely that some of our biggest and most well-resourced communities and organizations will have the staff and capacity to apply and get funding. The administration and federal agencies have therefore made goals and established programs to ensure that the funding and benefits are reaching rural, disadvantaged, and environmental justice communities. One of those initiatives, and what we're going to talk about today, is the Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Centers. I've already introduced the acronym to you, TIC-TAC. So EPA has selected 16 TIC-TACs across the country in partnership with the Department of Energy. These TIC-TACs are ran by different place-based partnerships in the different US EPA regions. They are tasked with removing barriers and improving the accessibility for disadvantaged communities so that they can address environmental justice challenges and apply for federal funding. As you will hear more later, the centers will provide training and capacity for navigating, applying for, and managing grant applications. And they will create and manage communication channels to ensure communities have direct access to the resources and information. So zooming in here on, we here in Illinois are part of US EPA Region 5. There were 2 TIC-TACs selected in Region 5. The Great Lakes Tic-Tac is the focus of today's webinar, and University of Extension is part of that, as you will hear. It is led by the University of Minnesota with partnerships in each Region 5 state. In a moment, I'm going to hand it to Ursula, who's staff person with the Great Lakes Tic-Tac, to dive in. Before I do that, real quick, though, I want to just mention that there is another US EPA Region 5 Tic-Tac that is led by Blacks in Green. They are actually hosting an in-person Tic-Tac launch event this Thursday through Saturday in Chicago. And while they are based in Chicago, they're also serving US EPA Region 5. And you can find out more on their homepage at blacksandgreen.org about this Thursday through Saturday event. It looks like a lot of fun for those of you that might be in that part of the state. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ursula to provide an in-depth look at the Great Lakes Tic-Tac. And I will put a bit more information about Ursula, kind of her bio in the chat so you guys can get to know her. So with that, I'll stop sharing screen and let her pull hers up, and I will put that information about Ursula in the chat.
All right. Hi, everyone. Like Amanda said, my name's Ursula Parfeniuk. I'm the grants navigator at the new Great Lakes Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center, or TICTAC. And I'm excited to share with you all today more information about the TICTAC and our services, especially because I grew up in Illinois. And so I'm very familiar with a lot of the locations you all have put in the chat. So first I'll go over our purpose, who we serve, who are our partners in this work, before I move on to how you can learn more about us, as well as get in touch with us. So our main mission is really to help community-based organizations successfully apply for and receive the immense federal funding that's currently available under some of the programs that Amanda has noted, really to support community leadership in defining, shaping, and driving solutions from concept to implementation. So our vision is that directly impacted communities are driving the solutions for climate resiliency, legacy pollution, and environmental and economic justice. So we really believe that communities have the solutions to the problems they are facing, and we primarily focus on environmental and climate justice communities. And so our TICTAC serves EPA Region 5, which includes Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, as well as the 35 tribes within those states. And so within these states are the communities which our TICTAC aims to serve. So our TICTAC is housed at the University of Minnesota, but our network within the region includes 5 other University Extension offices. This includes Michigan State University, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, Purdue University, University of Wisconsin, and the Ohio State University. We also have 4 nonprofit partners within our network. This includes the Great Plains Institute, the Midwest Tribal Energy Resource Association, or MTERA, which is leading our tribal energy work, Community Engineering Corps, which you'll hear a little bit about later, which offers pro bono engineering services, and the Environmental Protection Network, or EPN, which you'll also hear from, which has been doing some TA work for a number of years now. And EPN is actually unique in that their network is made up of over 500 former EPA employees. And so they bring an additional expertise to the really complex grant applications, federal grant applications that are currently available. And so at our TICTAC, we have 3 tiers of services, all of which are made through resources within our TICTAC network, which encompasses the universities and the NGOs I shared. So the first tier is really education. So this is where we might have a lighter touch with a community group. So for example, we can offer grant checklists for certain grants, as well as templates and sample project narratives. So this tier is where you're more so just looking to get connected to a resource. Our second tier, which we call navigation, is more middle range in terms of connecting. So we might have a meeting with a group and then stay in touch more loosely through emails afterwards. So this might include providing support identifying grants for a project or offering a grant review. And what this means is that you have written a grant application and want to receive feedback so you can strengthen the application some more before you're ready to submit it. And so really the purpose of the first two tiers is to create systems so that we can put time and energy into the last tier, development. So this involves services such as project planning for grant proposals, engineering support like a feasibility study or cost estimate for a grant proposal, geographic information system or GIS mapping support, as well as budget development and continuous one-on-one partnerships with communities, as well as post-award grant support, such as interpreting the kind of complex grant award letters, best practices for data collection and management, things like that. So our newly updated website is the best place to learn more about us, and I can put those in the chat after I'm done here. But you can read more about us, read about featured funding opportunities, news, as well as resources. And we actually have a number of resources already up on our website, and we invite you to view those and share those with others. This is really your first step to receiving some of our services, as we plan to continuously update our resource page. So for example, we already have resources listed on how to find federal funding, how to register for sam.gov in order to be able to submit grants to the federal government, as well as some checklists, templates, and sample language for some grant applications, among some other resources. And this past month, we also just launched our intake form. And this is really the best way to get in touch with us if you need technical assistance. So in the form, we're really just looking for who is your organization and what do you need at this time. We know it can be really tempting to kind of check that you need all the technical assistance support right now, but we really just want to know, what do you need at this moment to get you to that next step? So for example, maybe you're new to the federal grant world, and so at the moment, you really just need to know how to get registered to apply for federal grants. Or you have a project idea and you need help identifying if any funding opportunities exist that would support your project. Those are both great and definitely gives us enough info on where we can start a relationship with you. So we welcome you to stay in touch with us. You can do so in a number of ways. You can visit our website at tictac.umn.edu. We also have our intake form on almost every single page on our website, so it's pretty simple to find, and I'll put it in the chat as well later. But like I said, if you need technical assistance, please fill out this form. This is really the best step to kind of starting that process. You can also reach out to us at tictac@umn.edu. And lastly, we plan to send out newsletters every other month. You can sign up to receive those at z.umn.edu/tictac news. I'll put that in the chat as well. But you can receive kind of the most updated information from our center here. So this will include regional and state updates, new federal and state funding opportunities, as well as new resources that we post, among other news. So thank you all so much, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Ursula. And I am now going to introduce Noor with Environmental Protection Network. Environmental Protection Network is one of the Great Lakes TICTAC partners, and she will share more information about the services that they provide. Take it away, Noor.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Amanda. Hi, everyone. My name is Noor Shahzad, and I work for the Environmental Protection Network. I will share my screen. Are we able to see that?
Yep, I see a QR code, Noor.
You just see a QR code, you don't see anything
Oh, I
else?
see the slide. Yeah, it says question.
Let me see. Hello, everyone. My name is Noor Shazad, and I'm with the Environmental Protection Network. I work as a Community Outreach Associate for EPA Region 5. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. A little bit about EPN is we were founded in 2017. So when the administration changed in 2016, a lot of these individuals that had dedicated their entire lives to the EPA and saving the planet saw their life's work being unraveled and disinvested from. And so essentially they decided that they were gonna get up and leave and start another network called the Environmental Protection Network, where they would be able to help communities one-on-one. So now we're made up of 600 EPA alumni across the country, so very seasoned former regulators with decades of historical knowledge and subject matter expertise, very, very particular knowledge that they have that we wouldn't be able to access in other places. And that is what makes EPN so unique, is our ability to have access to 600 EPA alumni that spent their life solving an environmental justice issue, whether that's Superfunds, brownfields. If the EPA has an office in it, we have an expert in that field, or we will try to find somebody that can help you out. Our goals and objectives as an organization. Our main goal, and I heard this being echoed earlier as well, but it's really to build the capacity of environmental agencies and the communities they serve to address the most urgent health and environmental crises. Whether that's via national policy advocacy, pro bono technical assistance, or recruiting and retaining greater diversity of EPA staff. The area that I focus on, and along with my colleagues, is the pro bono technical assistance aspect of it. So that's really leveraging the expertise of the 600 EPA alumni that we have to provide technical assistance to communities in our respective regions. And that's, for me, Region 5. Currently, we've talked about this a little bit. Amanda mentioned, and Ursula did as well, the current climate and what we're EPN, how we're positioned to be able to attack the current climate regarding the infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act is essentially we have created these federal funding guides. And this is how we have distilled down the complicated information and current information coming out regarding the infrastructure law and the bipartisan bill and the IRA, just to be able to make it more accessible to communities. So I thought what would be helpful here is that if I walked us down just a little bit, one of the guides very quickly. So if we just go on our website, we break down every single step of applying to, for example, the Community Change Grant, which is the grant that we're currently focusing on. We break down each step and we have a date alongside the resources and linked videos and who to ask for questions alongside the breakdowns of every single step, just so it is more accessible. And that is one of the main resources of EPN that right here, that is particularly, I think, accessible and helpful for this group that we're speaking with today. Another thing that is particularly helpful that EPN offers is the sam.gov and grants.gov office hours every 2 weeks. So essentially what that is you can come in, sign up, and once you're in the Zoom meeting, you will be connected one-on-one with an EPN member, and they'll be able to guide you through the sam.gov, grants.gov registration process. You can share your screen and go through it, and we'll be able to guide you step by step. And that's been particularly helpful for communities just because that's the first step to accessing federal funding. Now, the part that I wanted to mention earlier is that we have associates essentially in every single EPA region. So we are nationwide technically, but I am obviously EPA Region 5, so I will be your main point of contact if that were to come up. Funding to explore currently that we're focusing on is the EPA Environmental Justice Community Change Grants and the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grants. We have guides out on our website alongside examples and filled out applications and FAQs and really anything that you can think of on the website that should help break down the grant itself. And that is how EPN is particularly positioned to be able to attack this funding. And those are the resources that EPN provides. So we have like a technical assistance aspect where we're able to help communities one-on-one with their particular climate justice needs. But we also provide grant assistance where we distill down complicated NOFOs and grants, and we create resources for communities, and we provide one-on-one assistance to be able to guide them through the application process. So that is where EPN is really the strongest. Thank you so much for having me. This has been really wonderful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I will leave my email in the chat. You can reach out to this email as well. But thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you very much, Noor. And I wanted to let everybody know that any links and or contact information put into the chat during today's webinar will also be summarized in a follow-up email where we will send out all of that information plus the webinar recording. So don't worry about trying to grab all the links out of the chat. We'll make sure you get those in an organized fashion in the follow-up email. So thanks again for Noor sharing the resources from the Environmental Protection Network. I'm going to now hand it over to Ellie with Community Engineering Corps, another Great Lakes TICTAC partner, to share about the resources from her organization. Take it away, Ellie.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Ellie Carley, and I am the Program Manager for Community Engineering Corps. We are a nonprofit that provides pro bono engineering consulting. So I hope you can all see my screen and my slide deck. So Community Engineering Corps was actually founded in 2014 and is a partner affiliated program which was founded by the American Waterworks Association, the American Society of Civil Engineers, and Engineers Without Borders USA. So these three associations in 2014 recognized that there are many communities across the nation that are really in need of engineering technical assistance. So that's pre-construction. So we're talking about engineering consulting. So really understanding what their issues are that they're experiencing, and then providing the technical assistance to help them navigate where they should move forward with their engineering problem or requests. We also have partnerships with the National Society of Black Engineers as well, and we allow anybody from pretty much almost every association to participate on the program as long as they register with us and want to work. So when we talk about engineering consulting, we kind of narrow it down into these three buckets. So there's investigation and evaluation. Again, that's doing all the pre-work of site assessments, soil testing, water quality sampling, energy audits, site assessments, really from an engineering perspective. And then we provide engineering services such as engineering technical reports, That does include PERs for some of our projects. This is a preliminary engineering report, alternative analysis designs, and then feasibility studies. And last but not least, we do try and connect communities with funding sources. This pre-work that happens really sets up a community for success when asking for following money from grant foundations, grant funding opportunities, government agencies. Really, we see that this background work of what the engineering request is and the best way to solve those problems really elevates those applications to win as much money as they can. So you might be asking how we do all this. So what we do is through those partner associations, those associations have hundreds, sometimes thousands upon thousands of engineers that are interested in providing technical support. We've set up this program and framework to really harness those volunteers who are professional engineers, maybe retired, maybe EITs or engineers in training, maybe they're at a university. But what we do is as a staff, we work in these particular areas of infrastructure. So this is infrastructure engineering. And we find those expertise and engineers that are equipped and within the state and within the field of the practice of project, and we connect them together. So we provide the services pro bono through that volunteer capacity, but we're also targeting agriculture, civil works, energy, structure, and water and wastewater projects across the nation. Here's a quick snapshot of how kind of like our active projects and what kind of fields that we work in. As you can see, we're all over the United States. This is just active and completed. So we've pretty much hit almost every state, and we really are proud of ourselves that we work in almost every field of infrastructure, civil engineering. And these are design documents to help move communities from idea or concept into actuality and project development. So we talk about documents and what those documents might mean. This is an example of what a preliminary engineering report might look like. So while this is condensed down to only 7 bullets, when you do complete this entire report, these can be anywhere from 50 to a couple hundred pages. But it really does define what the scope of work is, what the need for the community is, and the engineering steps forward to solve those problems. So for example, a big one that we have is water and wastewater projects. So for water projects, say a community's well collapses, they do not have the capacity to hire for-hire consulting engineering company. They'll reach out to us, and we then collect the volunteers that are experts in that field and in that state to provide them an alternative analysis, a feasibility study, and a cost estimate that goes into a preliminary engineering report. With reports like these, and for the example I provided, communities can win anywhere from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars to really move their infrastructure issue forward. We always want to thank all of our partners. Community Engineering Corps is a part of the Region 5 TICTAC, but we are also part of the Region 2, 7, and 10. So we have representation all over the nation, as well as pro bono services through all 50 states and territories. All right, I will also do the same as Noor once I close down my presentation. I will put my email in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me directly or to the TICTAC services as well. We will gladly try and support on any engineering projects that we can, and always want to help communities in the Great Lakes area. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ellie. I'm going to take the reins back and just share a quick snapshot highlight of a handful of grant opportunities that are currently open and that the Great Lakes TICTAC can support community-based organizations and communities in applying for. I'm also going to drop my own bio in the chat there. Forgot to do that earlier. So first up, you heard Noor talk about Environmental Protection Network's 6-step guide for applying for the US EPA Community Change Grants. This is a big focus of the TICTACs across the nation. It was a funding opportunity that was just announced for $2 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act for environmental and climate justice activities to benefit disadvantaged communities. These are projects that will reduce pollution, increase community climate resilience, and build community capacity again, for environmental and climate justice projects and challenges. The great thing about this funding opportunity is it just opened up and they're actually accepting applications until November of this year. It does require partnerships. And EPN also has a tool where if you're interested in this, you can put in your community-based organization or community's information, and then they can try to help match you with partners that are proposing similar things in similar areas. A couple more things about this grant opportunity, that they are quite large grants, $10 to $20 million. So big impacts in communities that need them the most. And again, you'll find a lot of information about the community change grants and information from the TICTAC. Nor also, or one of our presenters, maybe it was Ursula, pointed out that the Clean School Bus program is one of the things that the Great Lakes TICTAC is also focusing on. This is another US EPA initiative that has $5 billion over 5 years. We've already seen a couple grant and rebate programs through this opportunity. So about $2 billion has been spent. I mentioned that we already have some electric school buses on the road in Illinois, thanks to this program. So the funding is for schools, as well as businesses that contract with schools to provide bus service. And the money is to replace existing school buses with zero emission or low emission models. The 2023 rebate program application actually just got pushed back from end of January to February 14th is the deadline for the 2023 rebate program. We expect to see another grant program this spring and then another rebate program this fall. The Energy Improvement in Rural and Remote Areas is a program that received $1 billion from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law to improve the resilience, reliability, and affordability of energy systems in rural communities with less than 10,000 people. This program aims to fund community-driven projects that, again, deliver benefits throughout rural America. We've already seen 3 different funding opportunities totaling about $365 million through this program. There are not any open funding opportunities right now, but there is money left. And so we do expect Department of Energy to announce opportunities this year. It's helpful to go in and look at what there was, again, 3 programs already funded through this. Take a look at what they look like, and you can get a sense for what DOE might do with programs this year. Again, with funding from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, Illinois now has $75 million a year to clean up abandoned mine lands. These are lands that were mined prior to 1977. At that time, there was no requirement for cleanup. This money is actually managed by the Department of Natural Resources, so that the money flows from the federal government to IDNR. And they actually develop and manage the projects that can be done on both private and publicly owned lands. The Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program makes funding available to states and local governments for hazard mitigation. These applications are due the end of February, but another grant opportunity is expected this fall. And something to note on this grant opportunity is that local units of government are actually considered sub-applicants to the state. And so on this slide, I've put information for the state contact for this program. So in addition to looking at information from FEMA, you're going to want to coordinate with the state's requirements around this. And again, these are just meant to be snapshots. We will do, as part of this webinar series, we'll dive in to some of these grant opportunities more in the future. For example, the February webinar is on the Community Change Grant. Many of these you can get more information by visiting the TICTAC website and or joining future webinars. So I'll move on. In late December, the US EPA announced 9 regional grant makers through the new Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Grant Making Program. So a lot of people, when they heard this, they were confusing it with the TICTACs. This is actually another initiative that it actually has money to make grants for local environmental and public health projects in underserved communities. The grant makers are regional, and in Region 5, Minneapolis Foundation and a few partners were selected as the grant maker. detailed information isn't out yet, but we do know that grants will be made at 3 different levels depending on project readiness. I do have a website here that you can track more information. And again, the Great Lakes Tic-Tac will be communicating as these grants are available. But these would be, smaller grants. If that 10 to 20 million community change grant seems like too much, these would be a good place to look for environmental and public health projects. One of the things that we want to do here in Illinois, as we bring the resources, the Great Lakes Tic-Tac, to Illinois communities, we also want to make sure that we're matching state opportunities with those. So I did want to mention that several federal funding opportunities are flowing through state agencies. One example of that is the Illinois Finance Authority, which is also called the Illinois Climate Bank. And they're actually holding a stakeholder session tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. to learn about several federal funding opportunities that their office will be administering. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity will also be on this call, sharing updates about their clean energy workforce programs. So I just wanted to sneak that in there today. So as far as next steps, we already heard a few from our other presenters, but I just wanted to remind you that a summary of today's presentation, including the recording and a link to resources, will be emailed to you, assuming you registered for the event and didn't get the link from somebody else. You can visit the Great Lakes Tic-Tac website and find that intake form. You can email the Great Lakes Tic-Tac. You can also attend future driving community webinar series. Our next one again is in February, and we'll dive in on the community change grants. And then finally, if you are new to federal funding opportunities, joining one of EPN's upcoming office hours for getting registered and sam.gov would also be a good place to start. I will also share my email and would welcome folks to reach out. If you're having trouble figuring out where to get started, I'm also happy to help you navigate that. So please keep the questions coming in the chat. We're going to now turn to our question and answer session.
All right.
And I might to you, Lisa, to launch us off.
Yeah, so we've had a couple questions. Certainly, if you have other questions, please put them in the chat. There we go. One of the first questions that came in was a little more clarification about the fact that we have 2 Tic-Tacs in Region 5. We have the Great Lakes Tic-Tac and we have the Blacks and Green Tic-Tac. And somebody asked, who do we coordinate with? And I mentioned in the chat that both of us we're complementing each other. There's so many opportunities available and so many communities that can benefit from services that I think that it's really fantastic that we have 2 bodies working in this space, focusing on slightly different areas. And this is a fairly new program, so we're still working out all of the details on exactly how that demarcation is going to come about. And my recommendation is to watch both of us for the time being. Ursula, do you have any further comment, or do you want to say anything else about Blacks and Green Tic-Tac and the Great Lakes Tic-Tac?
No, we're still working out kind of how to work with them so that we do kind of offer up what each Tic-Tac is kind of best at, what our expertise is to the community groups. So it's definitely stay tuned on that. But we will be communicating together if there is, like a group that we think maybe they would be better working with, and they'll be doing the same as well.
Exactly. I do also want to say we invited them to participate in this webinar and they were not able to join us today. So they're not here, not because we didn't invite them, but just because they had a conflict that prevented them from attending. We had another question about who is eligible for technical assistance, or how do you qualify for technical assistance? And Ursula, do you want to go back to your slide where you outlined the levels of assistance we provide and just talk about?
Sure. And if I can just start, so who is eligible? It's or do you have to be eligible? It's kind of a yes and no answer. So in order kind of to receive the more deeper partnership, like the ongoing one-on-one partnership with the TICTAC, an organization should benefit a historically underserved community, as that focuses on environment and climate, as that is the direction of the funding which the TICTACs were created under. But with that said, we'll always be posting updated resources on our website, which anyone can use. Do you want me to go back to our services, you said, Lisa?
I thought it might be helpful. I don't know that we need to go back to the slide, but just we've got the three levels. The education, the navigation, and then the technical assistance. So there are ways to tap in.
Yeah. And we did, like I said, we did update our website, and so you can kind of see all of the services as well on our services page, which I could put into the chat right now, because that has all of them listed like the slide did as well.
Excellent. We had another question that asked about whether municipalities count as eligible organizations for technical assistance. And maybe I'll let each of the organizations answer. I think the answer is yes, I think, for all of us, but actually, Ellie, why don't we start with you? Do you want to talk about municipalities versus community groups?
Yeah, definitely. We support, and it is yes, Lisa is not wrong. We support many different types of community groups. Really, it's as a project that is impacting a community. So for example, like a community garden, and that's a nonprofit, or a municipality or a utility company. We've worked with many different types of groups to support that and support it for technical assistance. So municipalities for us are a definite yes.
Yes. And Nora, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, we also support municipalities.
Excellent. Yes, and I think through the TICTAC, probably the best way to get in touch, whether you're a municipality or a community group, is the intake form that Ursula shared, and Amanda put the link in the chat. All right. Your questions are coming in, and now I'm behind. Amanda provided the link to the climate bank. Oops.
I can help you ask
Yeah,
a few while you're next one. So there was one here, I think, for you, Ellie. What type of viability is attached to the work of the volunteer engineers of the Community Engineering Corps?
Yes, happy to answer that question. So Community Engineering Corps has set up this program to actually mirror that of a for-hire consulting agency. And we actually hold, as long as the volunteers are practicing as volunteers on our projects, we hold the errors and omissions coverage for any engineering professionals or volunteers on these projects. So we actually have the same liability coverage as a for-hire consulting service.
Excellent. We had a question about what else is coming up in this series. At this point, we have this webinar and then the February 20th webinar scheduled. We are talking about doing a webinar with some experts who can talk about ordinances and taxation and some of the fiscal pieces of both applying for these kinds of grants and managing particularly large-scale renewable energy facilities. So those are the things that are on tap. Amanda is right now also organizing some site visits on abandoned mineland reclamation sites so that we can invite people to come and see what this looks like on those abandoned mine lands in person. And we will continue to, our plan is to offer at least 6 of these a year. And it kind of depends on what the funding opportunities are and what we really feel like the need is. But our intent is to be active and sharing information in as real time a way as we possibly can. Anybody else want to share anything about upcoming information? All right. Let's see. We had somebody ask about, they're currently working on a climate pollution reduction grant proposal for the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. And would there be a TICTAC willing to review that proposal? And Ursula, do you have contact information for the Tic Tac that would serve Indiana? Or we can supply that if we don't have it in our hand.
So that would be actually a service that Environmental Protection Network offers our Tic Tac network. So maybe I'll let Nor take it from here.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ursula.
Yeah, sorry, repeat that.
Somebody is asking about a review of an environmental pollution reduction grant proposal.
Yes, absolutely. So we offer that service. You can I'll put my email in the chat, but also it'll be in the follow-up email. Just reach out to me and we'll be able to take care of that for you.
Excellent. Another question for Ellie. Somebody's asking about a building on an urban farm that needs an evaluation and whether or not engineering corps would be able to serve in that capacity.
Yeah, so I think that was Nalani. Nalani, while I don't know if it would fall under the Tic Tac itself, it might, and we would definitely love to evaluate that. We actually have done projects like that in the past. So we have done structural assessments on multiple different types of buildings. For example, we currently are doing structural assessments on first responder buildings in Puerto Rico to facilitate them for solar panels and solar arrays. So projects like that do fall into our lap, and we are happy to review them and see if they fall within the Tic Tac or see if they fall within other services we provide.
Yeah, so in that case, you can either go in straight through engineering corps or go in through the Tic Tac, and we'll figure out how that applies.
I was going to say I will add our direct link for applications, but again, if you don't want to do 2 applications, I would recommend going through the Tic Tac and they can pass it off to us. If you aren't sure if it applies for the Tic Tac support, I'll put in our direct Community Engineering Corps application link as well.
Excellent, thank you. Somebody is asking about that they've formed a Facebook community to work on a large-scale landfill to be a better neighbor. And do they need a team within local government to take advantage of these programs, or do they need to create a nonprofit? What level of coordination would a community need to access any of our services? Ursula, do you want to go first?
I think getting your local government involved in that would just be a benefit to you in general, I think, because they can kind of not only it might fall into the Tic Tac, but I think starting with getting your local government involved and seeing how kind of interested they are, what kind of projects they'd be interested with doing around this with you would be kind of, I think, a first step. And then if kind of your local government wants to take that on and needs additional support, if they're, understaffed or a small local government, then that is when you might want to come to the Tic Tac if you're looking for, funding for a specific project for that landfill.
Excellent, thank you. And I see in the chat, Nora is going to be at the Blacks and Green kickoff event this weekend. So if any of you are coming to us from that part of the state or able to attend, seek out Nora and say hi. All right. Another question, do electric vehicle charger installation and repair fall under the scope?
They do. And there's actually a number of grants that support the electric vehicle transition as well as infrastructure associated with that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think, Amanda, did I miss any questions or did I get myself caught up again?
I think we're caught up. Thank you, Lisa.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you so much for all of the questions and the lively discussion. As I mentioned, we're just in the first year of this project, and so it's rolling out. It's rolling out quickly, and we still have some. We're still figuring out how we're going to implement fully, and we know that there is so much need, and we want to make sure we provide the best services to the most people, so that Illinois can really benefit from this unprecedented level of funding, both on the state and federal level. I do see somebody in the chat. Nope, but I'm not sure I understand this question. Which organizations they didn't catch?
I think that's referring to the question about the electric vehicle charging. And so Ursula is actually on staff with the Great Lakes TICTAC. There are, many of us are parts of organizations that are part of the TICTAC, but there are a handful of staff people that were actually hired by University of Minnesota to solely serve the Great Lakes TICTAC. So I would suggest for the question about the electric vehicle charging infrastructure, visiting the TICTAC website and starting with that intake form and indicating that as a topic that you're interested in. And then they'll get back to you, and depending on what community you serve, will determine the level of engagement from the TICTAC. Again, with disadvantaged communities receiving more detailed assistance.
Well, thank you very much. Amanda, do you have any closing comments?
Just a big thank you to all of our presenters and for everybody that tuned in. It was really exciting to see the number of folks registering from across Illinois and the number of folks joining with us today. So please stay in touch, and hope to see you on the February webinar and beyond that as well.
Yes, yes. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you to all of you. We'll be in touch soon.
Thank you, everybody.